Victoria is an associate professor of sustainable business at the University of Plymouth, and I'm the executive director of scientists1.org and a member of the University for Survival. Today's guests, Greta Thunberg, who is very well known to most of you and much of the world by now, international climate activist, Nils Agard, international coordinator for Extinction Rebellion, and Liam Gary Walsh, who's the action coordinator also for Extinction Rebellion. And yes, today's program is titled Extinction Rebellion. Very serious. Now, I don't know if you caught the music that we started out with today. It's different than the usual music. We've changed our music because things have have gone beyond urgent. We are talking about extinction of hundreds and thousands of species and the possible extinction of the human species. This is very serious stuff. Now, this is a photo of Greta talking at the launch of the Extinction Rebellion on October 31st in London. And another view of her giving her remarks. And I wanted to start off by asking you, Greta, what it was you were saying.
We are facing an existential threat, and this is an emergency, and that today we use 100 million barrels of oil every single day, and there are no policies to change that, and there are no rules to keep that oil in the ground, so we can no longer save the world by playing by the rules, because the rules have to be changed.
The rules have to change. Very, very good framing of it. We have a defective system. The rules are what's killing us. Now, we'll go on with a few more photos, and I'll ask other guests to explain what's going on here as well.
So this picture is from an action that we did outside 10 Downing Street in London, which is the sort of Prime Minister's residence. And we've been targeting central governments, partly because the sort of demands are very much focused on the central government, and includes things like first asking the government to tell the truth about the crisis that we're in. Second, to sort of make legally binding policies to get carbon neutral by 2025. And third, sort of instigate the citizens' assembly based on sufficient in order to sort of oversee the transition that we think needs to happen.
How about this photo?
So yeah, just like Greta was saying, we need to change the rules of the game. As Extinction Rebellion, we're proposing a new system to solve the crisis. We're not here to tell people how to solve the crisis. We need the government to work with us and divert funding and create a new system to solve this problem. So our actions have been targeting government buildings. This is the Department for the Environment, and people have been taking non-violent civil disobedience, so sometimes that looks like spray painting on the side of these government buildings.
Now, I captioned this with quotes around the word environment because, as in my country, the United States, it appears that the Department of Environment is being hobbled under the current Conservative administration in the UK, just as Trump has done with the EPA. He's basically eviscerated it. What's going on in this photo?
So this is the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. The minister there, Claire Perry, has had secret backroom meetings with fracking companies, and yet she's refused to go and actually see on the ground the fracking sites in the UK. She's refused to go and meet with the protectors who've been camping at this site for over 2 years now. And so their aims when they're disrupting the fracking sites are to block the gates. So what we did outside this department was we blocked the gates. So people super glued their hands to the entrances of the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, and they blocked the gates and they shut down that department for 6 hours on our first day of our week of action. We saw that the police were really unwilling to arrest anyone, particularly in front of the media, and so I think that's partly why it took about 6 hours for them to start to arrest anyone. So people began to kind of up the ante. Supergluing wasn't enough, so I think the next slide will show you kind of how people took it forward from there.
I think that was a very creative strategy, supergluing themselves. But I want to note that the pushback in this case is that the police have been instructed not to make arrests in front of the cameras because they don't want the public to be aware of what's going on. So I'm hoping that this program will get wide coverage, so we will tell people, we will be onto their strategy, and we'll figure out a way to push back at that. Make them arrest. Non-violent civil disobedience, but force them to arrest us.
Can I ask, who are the kinds of people that are involved? As a Brit myself, I'm really hoping, I'm not saying this is what we do, I'd love if people explain, I'm really hoping that this is not something that people can box as some radicals in a corner, but this is something that the average person, the average family can hold their head up and say, we are not, respectable, normal people, but this is important and we're involved. So is that do you have a wide profile, and how are you going to, if that's the case, ensure that you stay in that zone?
Yeah, I think we've been really careful with our messaging with Extinction Rebellion, that we're aiming this at Middle England. We're aiming this at people who have to look after families. We're talking about the way that food prices are going to rise in a few years, and that's going to affect everyone. Extinction is the potential threat of losing all of our humanity species on this planet. And so we want everyone to be involved. We're not kind of attacking any individual political groups or any individual people. We're kind of trying to make this open. So our slogans are non-violent, save our children, tell the truth. We're asking the government to come out with the scientific facts and tell our people. We've actually had a lot of good coverage in the right-wing leaning press in the UK, and it's actually been a lot of the kind of more far left-wing kind of journals and media outlets that have attacked our movement at this point. So we are trying to kind of embrace everyone, and the people that we've seen actually risking their freedom, the people who've been getting arrested, are mostly parents and grandparents. They're not necessarily the young activists, they're not the two of us who've made it to COP necessarily, that are the people that are giving up their freedom. We're looking at kind of grandparents who are getting arrested on the street.
And that's so powerful, isn't it? Like I say, this is beyond ideology. This is about, as Greta very clearly puts it, this is about common sense. This is not about an ideology.
I advanced the slide too quickly, but I'd like to explain what this is. This is Dr. James Hansen, the pole reverer of climate change, being arrested in front of the White House. And I believe he's been arrested a total of 11 times at actions against the fossil fuel industry. This is not for any particular kind of person. This is for all kinds of people to get out there and speak with your actions, and don't be afraid of being disruptive to the system, because the system currently is killing us. It's not looking out for us, it's killing us. Now we'll go back to the Extinction Rebellion. What have we got here?
So this is a map over the central London bridges, as you can see. And we sort of started to discover after the Declaration of Rebellion, the repetitive speech, that we had a massive increase in support and energy and people wanting to join us. So we decided to sort of increase our ambitions at this point, and sort of, instead of doing an action at one place, we decided to spread out and do 5 different bridges. And we did communicate with the authorities a few days in advance to let them know that this was our plan, so that the emergency services could have time to sort of reroute the traffic. And also these were the same bridges that were sort of closed during the London Marathon, I believe. So they had already been closed down once before, but for another reason. And so at this day, the 17th of November, when we did this, we also started to be getting a big increase. International groups wanted to join us and wanted to do things. So we had groups in several different continents, in many different countries, who were also taking action on the 17th of November, and also obstructing streets and obstructing roads.
One of those bridges in particular is of interest. This one, the Westminster Bridge, is the one that crosses the Thames to the British Parliament building. And that was also closed down during this action. The government noticed. Here you've got a picture of that particular bridge, I believe.
So I just think it's important to say that we've kind of had a very human approach to how we kind of grew this mass movement by going and speaking in community centres, in churches, in universities around the country. We did kind of actually in-person talks with thousands of people around the country, and then we gave those people who wanted to get involved in the actions non-violent direct action training workshops. So through those workshops we trained people in how to take this kind of action, and those affinity groups that were formed from those workshops came to London and were given a bridge to block. And so once they blocked the bridges and let the traffic off, the members of the public who'd just shown up on the day from our publicity could then go freely into the road, knowing that kind of they were being defended by the activists who had received this training, and can kind of have this peaceful celebration of resistance. And as we say, like right outside the Parliament building, completely blocking central London for 5 hours.
So this is, it's really interesting that you're showing that this is a way that people can come together and show how they're affected by this issue, and in a way that you're working with the system, because actually this is not against anyone in particular, like you say, this is about people coming out and letting themselves be understood. So have you thought of that, and are you working with different institutions? So it was in our press conference a couple of days ago with Greta, and we were hearing about in Australia, the Prime Minister was against the school children protesting, but that the Senate came out and supported and said, no, actually we support you children not being at school. So to what extent, I was thinking, are you maybe working with universities, hospitals, and trying to get the support of those organisations to say, we support you to go and support this movement, and start putting them in their markets. Have you started doing that?
I think one approach that I have to that is to sort of try to be as friendly and respectful both towards the police and towards the authorities. We're sort of thinking that if we are sort of as friendly and respectful and as sort of nice and polite, then it will be a lot more easy for the sort of individuals or sort of people in power who are sort of slightly sympathetic towards us to sort of come out in support of us. If we would have been very sort of oppositional and aggressive, it would have been a lot harder for people, even in the government or even big institutions, to come out sort of in support of us.
I think what we found is that despite kind of speaking for everyone and kind of making this open to everyone and contacting a lot of different institutions, a lot of big NGOs, contacting obviously politicians to try and get them on board, we found that despite this being everyone's concern, like we are risking human extinction here, this is everyone needs to come together and solve this, we're seen still as too radical for any institution to come out and fully support us. Most of their big NGOs, bureaucratic structures kind of resist them getting involved in supporting a new radical campaign at any speed that we would allow. But what we have seen is a lot of individuals from those institutions kind of give us a lot of support, give us advice. We had kind of people who were involved in transport policy advising us on shutting down the bridges. We've had kind of activists from Greenpeace, we've had activists from Reclaim the Streets, from Occupy. We've actually found Extinction Rebellion something that kind of has brought them out of retirement, so to speak, and they've come back onto the streets and started supporting us, not as an institution, but as individuals with knowledge and with advice. We're drawing from a lot of experience in kind of different radical movements.
So in terms of communication then, if you don't mind me asking, I know I'm asking a few questions here, but in terms of communications, there are two things that appear to be very, very critical. Firstly, like Stuart said, getting that message amplified, because it's very easy to not know this stuff that's going on and not know the profile. So what's your strategy on that? But secondly, if you do get more radical elements, frankly, who would blame some people who were very panicked wanting to do something that was even more, I personally wouldn't, but if people take that action in the name of Extinction Rebellion, how will you preserve Extinction Rebellion for the domain of the average person that would then find out?
Well, I think that's why we're trying to create a mass movement where thousands of people are willing to risk arrest and hundreds of people are willing to risk time in prison for this. We're trying to show that this is kind of a mass rebellion. We're not going to stop. We're not like a one-off protest. We're not a small group taking direct action against an individual company or an individual politician. We're a rebellion and we're going to keep going. I think it's also important to talk about how we've been kind of dealing with the grief of what we're facing. We're actually talking about the loss of life. We're talking about the grief that we're experiencing from the life that has already been lost from climate change and the life that's going to be lost. So a couple of Saturdays ago, we held a funeral in Parliament Square and we held this coffin that you can see here. The coffin read, "Our Future." And so we started to dig up Parliament Square. We actually took spades and kind of took the turf up. And despite kind of several activists continuing to dig after the police had come in, no one was arrested for this. Again, like we're trying to find different ways to get more people arrested because we know that's how you get media attention and we know that that's how you start these discussions in communities around the UK, around the world, so that we can actually reach a wide range of people.
I think it's quite interesting that they were digging up Parliament Square and no arrests were made initially until the press left. So that almost is a strategy you can use. They can let you do some very, very alarming things in front of the cameras before they will hazard to arrest you. So you want to push that envelope, just a little bit of strategic advice. Now, one more view of a march that was conducted by the Extinction Rebellion. When did this occur?
So this one did occur sort of also on the 17th of November when we were occupying the breaches. Because when we sort of held the breaches for a few hours, we sort of started gathering people up. So the bridge that was sort of furthest to the east, they started leaving their bridge and joined up with the next bridge. And they joined together and sort of joined the next bridge. And then by the end of the day, everyone was sort of joined together near Westminster Bridge in Parliament Square. So we were doing a bit of a ceremony.
And so this was kind of the denouement, the rally at the end. Let's all get together. And I would just like to, you'll forgive me, reframe it as unite for life. Yes, we want to rebel. We want to rebel from the current system, but we want to be an alternative movement that has a positive message. And so if I come join your next march, I'm going to come with a Unite for Life banner myself.
So I wondered whether maybe I could just ask Greta. Greta, Extinction Rebellion in Sweden, how is it, has it started gaining traction in Sweden? And are younger people involved, or is it seen that school strike for action is for young people and then when you become an adult, you need to Extinction Rebellion? How is it being seen?
Yes, there is a Extinction Rebellion movement in Sweden. It's not very big and it hasn't got very much media attention. It's only adults. Even on the school strike is almost 80% adults. There aren't many children. That is very surprising because you would think that the children would care. Everyone thinks that the children care so much about the environment, but we don't. Most of us don't.
Is that because children don't understand so much, or do you feel that children don't feel that they have the authority to do something like strike?
I mean, if adults don't care, then children won't care, and people don't know. My classmates say that, oh, it's good with global warming, then it's hot and that's nice. And that attitude, so it's...
And I can tell you, when it was there was an important report in the UK on climate change about the effect on the UK a couple of weeks ago, and on the radio, the summary was that it will get a few degrees warmer and that it might be like the south of France. Now they said it with a serious tone, but any average person who heard that as a summary is not going to understand the issue. So, totally.
I'd like to say that I feel it's also a failure in education. The schools are not properly teaching students about the threats of climate change. the science is mollified some. I hesitate to say dumbed down, but we'll have a program next week, probably next Tuesday, where some young people are coming from Germany's Berlin International School, and they will be talking about that very particular matter. Now, in the sake of having a little bit of time for questions, perhaps, I wanted to give contact information for the Extinction Rebellion. Please take a photo of that. And for our YouTube audience, you can stop the YouTube right here and write those down. And then I want to ask Greta if she's determined what she's going to be doing on this Friday for her Friday action.
What was the question?
Do you know what you will be doing this Friday? You have reserved Fridays for your personal action. And every time I've asked you, you've said we haven't decided yet. So have you decided? Because I think you'll get a lot of people joining you if you've decided.
I'm not going to be outside the Swedish Parliament on this Friday, but I will probably do something here. Hopefully, I will be able to do that.
So let me advise people that if you want to know what Greta is doing, then follow her on Twitter, and I hope we'll be announcing there where she'll be here in Katowice, doing her Friday for the future. And I'd like to put out a self-interested call for our efforts at scientistswarning.org. We need translators. Our videos are getting very popular and beginning to get good circulation around the world. The English-speaking world, obviously, is most of our viewership because we don't have a lot of languages translated. So please write to contact@scientistswarning.org if you have bilingual skills and are willing to receive a text file and return one to us with subtitles in your language. Now, upcoming this week, we'll be having Greta tomorrow with Martin Dorsland. We Don't Have Time. And We Don't Have Time, I believe, was instrumental in bringing Greta to a new level when they found her and made her a little bit famous, and it's taken off from there. Anders Rickman, the former president of the Club of Rome, will talk about the club's climate emergency plan on Friday, 7. Dan Galperin and Sarah Mead will be suing the bad... No, I'm sorry, I thought I'd change that slide. Suing the bad actors. And all of these programs will be here at 5:30 p.m. Excuse me, 1500. Can't walk and chew gum at the same time, as we say in New York. At 1500 hours, 3 p.m. Now, before we exit, we will have a few moments for questions. So is there any burning question in the audience? And please, no grandstanding, no long statements, just a question. One second. Wait for the microphone.
Thank you. Joe Brown from UK and Tismol Blog, Sun Reporter. I just want to ask you, Greta, and Extinction Rebellion as well, what do you think about the climate talks? This is a very different environment than protesting in front of the Swedish Parliament or in the streets in London. So I'm just interested in your take on what you've seen so far, and if you think this is a good place for ambitious action to be taken.
I think we, as Extinction Rebellion, we're here to kind of learn from other activists around the world. The great thing about these talks is that people do come from many different communities across the world, and we're here to share what we've been doing in the UK and how we've been spreading internationally. I don't think any of us from Extinction Rebellion had any hope that these talks were going to change the system in anywhere near as fast a rate as is needed at this point. And given that we're from the UK, we've been researching UK protest law, not British protest law. We don't have any intention to kind of take particularly radical action here. This is about coming together, like you said, uniting, and also coming together to do something different. I think what is working about Extinction Rebellion, what's working about the school strike is that we're not okay with how the system is now. We're here to say, like, we're not going to continue going on as normal. We're going to do something different. We are going to rebel, and we're going to stand up and change the system.
What do you think about the talks, Greta?
What talks? This talk?
The COP.
Oh. Yes, the COP, of course, it's this. We could, the people who are here, we could achieve very much. But I think that right now we won't achieve anything if we just continue like this, because something big needs to happen. We have had many climate conferences and nothing has come up from it. And if nothing changes, it's just going to continue that way.
I'd like to make a comment. I think that the talks are absolute bullshit. I think they're disingenuous. They're owned by the fossil fuel industry. Government of Poland makes no mistake about it, advertising fossil fuels as you enter the area where the pavilions are. I think it's gone beyond diplomacy, which is the art of making beautiful statements that mean very little. That's what's going on out there. Statements only, words only, no follow through. I am so angry about how our nations are selling us down the river for money, pure and simple, for money.
One thing just to add, the politicians that I've spoken to who are really serious about climate change feel that they don't have the mandate to act in relation to all the other questions. So actually what they said to me is what needs to happen is actually direct action, because it's to give them the mandate to do what they actually want to do.
Okay, we've all got our say about that. We don't have any more time, I'm sorry. But here's the contact address. Again, if you'd like to get in touch with us, we'll be out in the hall making space for the next conference after us. We're coming to you live from the UN climate negotiations in COP24 in Katowice, Poland. Thank you for joining us.